Hello and welcome. Tonight I'm going to take you through my hip replacement journey from start to finish. But first, let me say I let this go way too long. I should have listened to my wife and had the surgery months ago. But like most men, I can be stubborn and hard-headed. More about that in a few minutes. The pain started over a year ago. Not bad. Just enough to remind me that I wasn't as young as I used to be. I reasoned that I'm taking Mounjaro now, and with a little weight loss, I'd be fine. In retrospect, that line of thought was just me being in denial. I first tried steroid injections. For some people, this provides pain relief that lasts for many months, and in others, the injection doesn't work at all. My first lasted maybe 2 months. I had a second 4 months later that did not provide any relief at all. At this point, it's important to note that you have to wait a minimum of 3 months after an injection before doctors will perform a hip surgery. So at this point, I had no choice but to live with the pain, which I did through the summer. I was prescribed 800 milligram ibuprofen to be taken 3 times a day. That worked at first, but trust me when I say the pain will always come back. One of my doctors said I needed to exercise to strengthen the muscles around the hip joint. He said this would also help me with recovery after I did have surgery. This was about the same time that David started discussing stride kick on his channel, and Puggle Mounjaro issued his 30-day challenge. So I tried. E for effort. I believe it did get rid of some of the bone spurs showing up on my x-rays, but it got to the point where I just couldn't physically put in the steps. They got less and less each day. So, my friends, by now, I'm ready for the surgery. Carol called in May, and to my dismay, the next available date was August 22nd. To Carol's credit, she did not say once, "I told you so." We reserved the date, and the wait began. When we went somewhere, Carol drove and would let me out at the door, where I would wait in the car. I started doing something that I swore I'd never do. My friends, I used the electronic scooters that the big box stores kept up front for those that had difficulty walking. At home, I was becoming very sedentary. Fast forward to July 26, my first pre-op call with the anesthesia department at Mission Hospital in Asheville. Did I mention I was having surgery in Asheville? I made this decision as my insurance requires me to use a North Carolina facility, and I had decided I did not want to have the surgery at the small hospital that services the area I live in. But getting back to the call with the anesthesia lab, we went over the basics, what meds I was on, those I needed to discontinue, and when. Of particular interest was I needed to be off Mounjaro for at least 2 weeks prior to surgery. I made the decision to make it 3 weeks since I've been on the 15 milligram dose for some time. Towards the 3rd week, the food noise started creeping back into my life. I was also taking off ibuprofen for 2 weeks prior to the surgery, so hunger and pain. I did increase my food intake somewhat, but I didn't go overboard. And what's a little extra pain when you're about to have a surgery that will hopefully make the pain go away forever? But, and I've said it before, there's always a but. I learned I would be given an epidural prior to surgery, but not to worry. I'd be numbed in the area the needle would be inserted to keep it from being as painful. Friends, it was a miracle. I was cured. Right then and there, my hip started feeling the best it had felt in months. That didn't work. Before the call was over, my actual pre-op appointment was scheduled for the 9th. By now, days seemed like weeks to me, but the 9th finally rolled around. Now, I must say, Mission Hospital in Asheville is perhaps the most organized hospital I've ever used. I had lab work, met with the surgeon's PA, and the hospital pharmacist all in the span of 2 hours. No waiting at all. The meeting with the pharmacist was to discuss the risk of blood clots in the blood thinner I would be sent home with. The PA described the procedure and showed me the hardware that would become a permanent part of my body. Did you ever see any of the Terminator movies? Then you'll know what I'm talking about. The PA's last remarks were music to my ears, though. Unless there were complications, I'd be sent home the same day with no restrictions. We left Asheville and headed home to Franklin. I was looking forward to the 22nd. It could not get here fast enough. Now, let's fast forward again to August the 21st. Now hours seemed like days. I had a 10 a.m. appointment with my primary care physician in Franklin. This had already been scheduled and it made sense to keep it. My doctor was pleased with my weight loss progress and even gave me a new goal. I had reached the 270-pound mark, but now he would like to shoot for 250 pounds, and he advises me to join the local gym after surgery and tells me to come back in 4 months. At last, we leave Franklin for Asheville and stop at Cracker Barrel for a late lunch, early dinner. Then we checked into the hotel about a mile from the hospital. The room was on the backside, so not much noise, very comfortable, and I decided to take a nap. Right as I'm about to doze off, my phone rings and it's the hospital. The first thing that goes through my mind is the surgery is being canceled, but thank goodness I was wrong. They want me there at 6:30 instead of 7:30. I said no problem and set my alarm for 5 a.m. instead of 6. Minutes now seem like hours as I can't seem to get back to sleep. So after not finding anything to watch on TV, I just laid awake in bed and checked social media on my phone and returned texts that were wishing me well. You know the drill. Suddenly, I'm awakened by my alarm, and the time is near. I get up, shower with the antibacterial soap the hospital had given me, and get dressed. The trip to the hospital takes about 5 minutes because of the traffic lights. We pull up to the hospital entrance and take advantage of valet parking. As we proceed to the registration desk, I'm greeted by name and asked to verify my birthday. I don't believe they actually recognized me, but since there was only one other person in the lobby, they had a 50-50 chance of guessing correctly. It was a great personal touch, though. My wristband was ready, and it was placed on my right wrist, opposite from the side where surgery is to be performed. That was intentional. I am all for checks and balances at this point. I was called back in about 15 minutes. The first stop was the scales. I weighed in at 267.7 with shoes on, still under the 270 limit for the surgery. This was after being off Mounjaro for 3 weeks. This made me happy. Next stop, surgery prep and my first non-scale victory of the day. The surgery gown actually fit. The last time I had to wear 2 gowns to cover my backside. I've got to say this again. I was amazed at the efficiency and the teamwork as I was prepared for surgery. Every action taken was explained and I was given the opportunity to ask questions. Now came the one part that I had been dreading, the epidural. I won't lie, it was extreme discomfort. And you have to be completely still, but it's over with in just a few seconds and there you are, for lack of better words, lying on the hospital bed, happy. I was told later I was giving out unsolicited advice to my wife, daughter, and members of the hospital staff. I wish Carol would have videoed it. It would no doubt have got more views than this video ever will. They finally came for me and wheeled me into the operating room. At this point, I guess I'm only semi-coherent. I do remember offering to climb up on the operating table myself, but no sooner than I had gotten the words out of my mouth, I felt myself being lifted. Friends, I didn't realize it at the time, but this was my second non-scale victory of the day. The one thing I do remember is being strapped onto the table in such a manner that it made me think of making snow angels. I also remember my wrist being twisted in a manner that it was causing pain. I tried to communicate this to the staff, but my ability to speak was impaired. I did manage to free my wrist, and it had to be secured again. I've got the bruises to prove this. The next thing I remember is the surgical drapes being pulled from my side and being lifted onto a stretcher. I tried to ask a few questions, but either I was being ignored or my speech was still somewhat impaired. After being taken to the recovery area, I allegedly struck up a conversation with the nurse assigned to monitor me. I really don't remember how long I was there, but apparently my speech had returned. I had no recollection of what I said, but I do remember hearing him say I was being sent to what I can only describe as a discharge area where once I could walk the length of the hallway with a walker, climb and descend 4 steps, and urinate, I'd be on my way home. Home free, I thought. I was even thinking about where to stop for lunch on the way back to Franklin. My wife was already in the private waiting room that I was assigned. This is when I learned there had been a small complication in my surgery. Apparently it went longer than anticipated because in addition to having thick bones, I also have very hard bones. A different implant had to be used for my thigh. When the surgeon told Carol this, her response was, "Well, that explains why he's so hard-headed." The nurse came in and explained the next steps, no pun intended. I was offered food and drink and told the physical therapist would be in there soon. Believe it or not, I was up and walking with a walker, of course, in about 15 minutes. I felt no pain, steps were a breeze, except I bumped my head on the ceiling tile. Just one more task and I would be on my way home. Friends, I tried, but it didn't happen. Finally, the nurse used some sort of ultrasound device to measure the volume of fluid in my bladder. Without going into a lot of details, let's just say my bladder was finally drained by means I prefer not to discuss. At 7:30 p.m., Carol left to check into another hotel for the night, and I was taken back to recovery. Minutes were like hours, but around 5 a.m., the feeling started returning. At 6 a.m., the catheter was removed, and I was given water in a bedside urinal with my goal clearly marked. It didn't happen, so I asked for a cup of coffee. "I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, but that's against protocol. All I can offer you is water." "But I believe coffee will help," I pleaded. "I'm sorry, I just can't." So, if at first you don't succeed, ask someone else, and the response was, "Would you like it black or with cream and sugar?" "Splenda and cream if it's not too much trouble," I replied. For the sake of time, let me just say, once I had my coffee, I met and exceeded my output goal and was on the road in 30 minutes. So my friends, why am I sharing all of this information, and what does it have to do with Mounjaro weight loss? I'm hoping to convey a message, a very serious message. One can be overweight, obese, or even morbidly obese and still be metabolically healthy. But friends, take it from me. The extra weight can and will catch up with you sooner or later in ways that you might not have considered. Had I not lost weight using Mounjaro, I may not have found a surgeon willing to replace my hip. And if I had found one, I certainly would not have qualified for the anterior procedure where I'm up and walking within an hour after the surgery. I would probably still be in the hospital and looking at a 12-week recovery period instead of 2 visits per week with a physical therapist for 4 weeks. Friends, I've been obese for almost my entire life, so I know how it feels to be ridiculed, frowned upon, discriminated against. The list goes on. But also, it was not a lifestyle choice to be obese. As you no doubt have heard this before, something is broken inside of me that Mounjaro fixed. This drug, along with the support of family and friends, has given me a second chance not just at life, but a life of not being in constant pain due to joint issues caused or aggravated by excess weight. So let me encourage you to stay the course. Don't ever give up. If you have not yet started your weight loss journey, don't delay any longer. Make an appointment with your primary care provider today and ask about the new medications that are available. If the financial aspect is an obstacle, there are a number of channels available to you that offer guidance on how to get your insurance to possibly cover at least a portion of the cost. This is your life we are talking about, or at minimum, your quality of life. And don't be stubborn like I was. If you are delaying surgery that will make the pain go away, listen to your husband, wife, or significant other. Get it scheduled today. If you found this video to be helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on my recovery and weight loss journey. Thanks for watching. See you soon.